If any man among you seems to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise, Saint Paul said. I'm Valery V.Fadeev, and this is my series Transforming Humanism on overcoming the global political and cultural crisis. If we want to overcome the global social-cultural crisis, we are going to need a new understanding of the world, and I think that the way toward this new understanding lies in integrating into a whole the values of classical antiquity, the Renaissance and modernity. Classical antiquity valued virtues and philosophical conceptualization of the world. The Renaissance saw an ideal human being as a strong, comprehensively developed and creative person. Modernity prized scientific discoveries of the secrets of nature and using nature for the benefit of humanity. Religion certainly has been a very important component of public life in all ages, with the exception of the last 2 or 3 centuries in the West. It is important to understand that wholeness does not mean a perfunctory fusion of the values of different ages. Aristotle used to say that the whole, and we need the whole, is always more than the sum of its parts. Such an integration is not easy to achieve. Take, for example, the contradiction between first-generation human rights, personal freedoms, and second-generation human rights, social rights. First-generation rights require a weak state that is minimally involved in public life, not to speak of citizens' private life. Second-generation rights, on the other hand, require a state that is strong, particularly in its finances. Second-generation rights require a state that could handle its social obligations, and there is no simple solution to this conundrum, because both types of rights are important.
Цельность не означает, что надо взять.
Integrity does not mean that we need to take the best parts of each worldview and combine them into a new ideology. I will quote here Alexander Zinoviev, who once noted on a similar occasion that a theory that claims it to be possible to build a perfect society by taking the best elements of Westernism, his name for the Western ideology, and communism while discarding their bad elements, is an educated nonsense. We are talking about expanding the worldview space as such, and this expansion will allow those who immerse themselves in this space first to feel and later understand the new principles that will form the foundation of a new socio-cultural system. Wholeness is opposed to reductionism. Reductionism is a method of cognition that involves reducing complex phenomena to simple ones. First, a complex phenomenon is parsed into smaller components. This is analysis. Then these parts are reassembled. This is synthesis. Reductionism is the principal cognitive method of modernity. All natural sciences have essentially sprung from this method. We are talking about social and political trends, we are talking about the human being, about social sciences, about education. And is reductionism possible in everything that is connected with human beings? We are in the Darwin Museum. Back in the 19th century, Charles Darwin proposed an outstanding concept of the origins of species, including humans. This concept presupposed development, biological progress propelled by natural selection. And natural selection was based on the fight for survival, on competition, survival of the strongest. Is that true then applied to human beings or not? The problem is that, as Darwin's ideas shot to fame back in the 19th century, that they used to analyze the development of humanity, human communities, the human being. Therefore, the 19th century attempted to reduce a complex human being to simpler models. Is that correct?
Что ж получается, если Свят обезьян и матушка моя с папашей. Господи помилуй. Ой-ой-ой. И сам царь от обезьян.
Werner Heisenberg, one of the greatest physicists of the 20th century, recalled another great physicist, Niels Bohr, quoting Schiller's proverbs of Confucius: "Not but fullness makes us wise, buried deep truth ever lies." Heisenberg took these lines quoted by Niels Bohr to mean that fullness is not merely fullness of experience, but also conceptual fullness, fullness of different means of speaking about our problems and of natural phenomena. Quantum theory turns out to be an amazing example of it being possible to understand some circumstances with perfect clarity and still know that they can only be spoken of in images and symbols. It would appear that quantum theory belongs squarely in the realm of natural sciences. It is chock full of extremely complicated mathematical models, yet Heisenberg says that the path toward understanding lies solely through using images and symbols. Werner Heisenberg pondered the question of science and religion, and he believes that science cannot refute religious ideas. He wrote, "The correctness of proven scientific results cannot sensibly be doubted by religious thinking, and vice versa, the ethical demands which proceed from the heart of religious thinking should not be dissolved by extreme rational arguments from the sphere of science." Let's recall the conflict between Galileo and the Catholic Church. Galileo insisted that the heliocentric model is correct, but he did not want to undermine Christianity. The leading scientists of the time were, almost without exception, deeply religious. They strove to understand the divine design, and the Catholic Church did not accept the new model, the new theory. The Catholic Church turned out not to be ready for it. We can see here that value foundations manifest even in natural sciences. They must obtain, then, for social sciences as well. For the last few decades, the late Immanuel Wallerstein, an outstanding modern sociologist, had been writing about it and speaking about it in his public lectures. He finally needs to make a radical shift toward value-based reality. So far, no one has succeeded in this endeavor, but this task is becoming increasingly urgent. True science is not done with the help of the intellect, it is done with the help of the mind, and the mind includes intellect, dreams, daydreams, mystic experiences, admiration for works of art, and it will always distinguish the human being from the most advanced machine provided. Of course, the human being does not voluntarily reject these treasures. Now let's talk about education, about school education. Traditionally, school children are believed not to need extensive knowledge. They need competencies, they need pragmatic things they can use in real life. They only require the necessities. Shakespeare's King Lear immediately springs to mind. Allow not nature more than nature needs. Man's life is cheap as beasts. There are also suggestions that a special file be kept for every child, recording all the child's successes and failures. And certain criteria applied to the information in this file will be used to direct the course of the child's life. Maybe it will done by AI playing the part that was previously called fate or destiny. I don't think great educators would approve of this approach. We are in the courtyard of Moscow Pedagogical State University, and this is a monument of the great Russian educator Konstantin Ushinsky, who used to say, education should not only develop a person's mind and give them a certain amount of information, it should also ignite a thirst for serious work in the person, as their life can be neither dignified nor happy without it. How could artificial intelligence possibly ignite anything, ignite any emotions in a person? This is a task for a teacher, an educator, a pedagogue. It cannot be otherwise. And here we encounter a major conflict, a conflict of values. Strictly speaking, there is nothing new about it. 2 centuries ago, William von Humboldt created the modern university. He relied on the classical antiquity tradition that was not so much updated as reworked by the Enlightenment. What we see now is a departure from the great humanist tradition. We see a triumph of pragmatism stemming from education rejecting its value foundations. As we have said before, instrumental rationality is emerging and triumphant, and I am afraid that the yield will be meager. Wilhelm von Humboldt wrote, "People obviously cannot be good craft workers, merchants, soldiers or businessmen unless, regardless of their occupation, they are good, upstanding and, according to their condition, well-informed human beings and citizens." Knowledge and creation should go hand in hand. This is the thrust of Humboldt's humanism, that is the foundation of his education system. The Russian religious philosopher Nikolai Fedorov echoes the German intellectual, and I quote, "Contradictions between rational beings and an irrational force will persist until rationally thinking beings have become rationally acting ones. That is, until 2 minds, the theoretical one and the practical one, are fused and include the third, artistic and religious mind as well." Pessimists may say that it may be right, but it's going to take a long time. Yes, it is going to take a lot of time. It will take decades, but apparently there is no other way. Only broadly educated, well-prepared people and a well-prepared society can rise to the tremendous challenges that face humanity and Russia. Additionally, these changes will start immediately, because the very atmosphere will change. It will be an atmosphere of creation, of knowledge, and today's intellectuals will act in a more free and energetic manner. Their ideas will become more daring, but it will happen when universities become temples once again. Article 43 of the Constitution of the Russian Federation states that every person has the right to education, and then that the Russian Federation sets federal state education standards. The latter statement means that education is the same throughout Russia, that higher education is free on competitive basis, while secondary education is free for everyone, but this article fails to describe the contents of education. What are the contents of education standards, and in broader terms, what is the purpose of education? If we remain on the humanist positions, we should say that every citizen has a right not merely to some education. The citizen has the right to master all the values created by humanity to the degree, of course, that the person's abilities allow them to. There are three cognitive institutions that help people learn about the world: science, art and religion, and each has its own cognitive methods, its own unique language. Every person should, if not master, then at least understand what these three methods, the scientific, the artistic and the religious, are. That is the fullness of education. The education system should teach people all three ways of knowing the world. People have the right not to a mere education, they have a right to knowledge. Bernard Toynbee, an outstanding 20th century historian, believed the purpose of education to be religious and not commercial. Of course, he did not mean studying the Bible. He meant the values education is founded upon. People need to understand the complex world around them. They need to be able to tell good from evil. They need to have at least an approximate idea of the values that humanity has developed over the millennia of its history: science, scholarship, art, literature, music and religious values.